Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, The Single Life. Let's follow Colt's story. Let's watch.
I feel like sex is a super important thing to you, and I agree it is important. I probably don't rank it as high as you do. It is important, but not like the main thing.
Well, when you say it like that, it sounds kind of...
Yeah, it doesn't sound good, but I mean, what fucking couple is having sex 3 times a fucking day?
Right. So as I've talked about before, this is typically the way people will talk about differences in desire of frequency for sex is they will start off by saying, I don't want to have sex as much as you do, or I want to have sex more than you want to have sex. And without just sticking to those feelings and being differentiated and just saying, look, I want this. They feel threatened, or they are being threatened, or they're being judged or accused of something. And so they defend themselves by triangulating other people, this unnamed average that's out there in the society of like, and that's what Vanessa is doing right now. She's saying, because I think where she's coming from is, I want to be with you, but I'm a little worried because you want to have sex all the time, and I don't want to have sex that often. And so I'm not sure what's going to happen. Instead of just sticking with that, which makes total sense, she is pulling in society and saying, what couple has sex 3 times a day? And basically saying there's something wrong with you, and you need to change how often you want to have sex. You're abnormal. There's something wrong with you. Now, if Colt was attacking her and saying there's something wrong with you because you don't want to have sex 3 times a day, then that might justify a counterattack in that way. I don't know. But to answer the question that Vanessa is saying, there are couples who have sex 3 times a day. There are. But it's because they both want to do that. It's not often that couples want to do that. The average is lower than that. But there are, a minority of couples who absolutely have sex all the time, 3 times a day. So if Colt was with someone that wanted to have sex 3 times a day, then they would be having sex 3 times a day in all likelihood. But Vanessa doesn't want to do that, and that's okay, because no 2 people are completely compatible with each other. So you can have your preference. It can be different than your partner. How do you talk to each other about it? How do you listen to each other? How do you expand your repertoire of quote unquote sex so that everyone can get their attachment needs met, their sexuality needs met? Those are the kinds of conversations I wish they were having instead of this one.
Not us.
Every fucking day.
Not us.
Please, introduce me to this fucking couple, because I've never heard of such a thing.
I don't need to have sex every day.
You say that, yeah, you say that, but every fucking day it's the same fucking thing, and then you throw a fucking tantrum. Oh, you don't have enough sex with me.
Right. So that's a frequent phenomenon as well, is the higher libido individual will feel hurt by the rejection or not being able to get their sexual needs met. And instead of coming to the other person and saying, look, it's putting me in a bad mood. It's not your fault, but is there something else we could do here? Or, it's a complicated conversation. There's a lot of things to talk about. And instead of doing that, they will mope as a way of trying to punish the other person or communicate to the other person that they're upset, which doesn't usually go over well, and it's not going over with Vanessa. Vanessa is saying, no, I do not want to have sex 3 times a day, and then that will cause Colt to, give me the silent treatment or to mope or to blame me or something. Then I feel like I'm being pressured, and I don't want to do that, and then more conflict and more hurt, and it sounds like they're in that position.
I like lust. I like the energy, the fire, the passion. I want to have sex 4 or 5 times a day. 3 would be great, but Vanessa doesn't hold the same type of importance. When we do it, she's just like, okay, let's do it. At the end of the day, it's not the frequency of sex, it's the amount of intimacy and connection associated with it.
Interesting. So in a previous video, I was hypothesizing about him. I didn't know, but I do know other clients that I've worked with, other men who have been socialized to funnel all of their attachment needs into a very narrow definition of sex. Not even a broad definition of sex, but a very narrow definition of what sex even means. All of their attachment needs, all their connection, all of their intimacy needs, all of their ability to feel like they could be vulnerable and talk about emotions or express themselves in the moment gets funneled into this one thing because we suppress that in boys and teenagers and adult men. We will say that you can't have emotions. You can't be vulnerable. You have to be strong. You have to be an alpha male. You have to alpha up. like that one placard we saw in the therapist's office. So he is actually even saying that for sex for him isn't necessarily just about sex. It's also about the intimacy and the feeling of vulnerability and the connection that it provides. And so if they went to a therapist that knew to talk about these sorts of things, we would say, okay, let's start broadening our definition of even what sex is. Colt, are there other things that we could start introducing into the repertoire of you and your relationship so that you can get your attachment needs met in ways that Vanessa actually will want to participate in? Not only want, but actually really, really, really want to do, maybe cuddling or holding hands or eye contact or talking or just laying next to each other or something, going for a walk, intimacy, being together. Usually I have found that men who are very, very focused on sex and want to have sex all the time, usually it's because they have a lot of attachment needs, as everyone does, and they have no other way to express that, no other way to get those attachment needs met.
I feel like you just don't enjoy sex, honestly.
I feel like 3 hours for fucking sex is ridiculous. Like, fucking come on, let's go. Sometimes, yeah, I'm turned on and you just keep fucking going and going, like stories, just keep talking. And I'm like, shut the fuck up.
So this is not good. Now, again, you might hate Colt. A lot of people do. But if I'm just going to use these shows as a jumping off point, this is not the way you want to talk to your partner when you're trying to create a safe place for people sexually and intimacy-wise. You can say, and there's a different way of putting this from Vanessa's point of view, just like, yeah, so honey, what I get from you is you like to have sex for a long period of time. You like to get into it. You like to talk and you like to... But that's not really my preference. I'd like to have it a little bit shorter, or maybe we could do other things. You can absolutely say that. You could say, I don't like what you like. You like to do this thing. I like to do this other thing. You can just say that. You don't have to ridicule someone as a way of making your point. That is not a good idea, because what that does typically is it really hurts their feelings, and then they suppress, and then the next time they want to have sex with you, they're like, oh, am I going to get ridiculed for this again? And we have enough sex negativity already in our society. We don't need it actually between the individuals in a couple.
Jesus, fuck.
Well, I like a little imagination. I'm more in the mental.
You want like a full fucking erotica novel. I'm like, fucking hurry up. Let's go. You're like, hold on. I'm only on chapter 3. Like, fuck, come on.
Again, absolutely. If she has a preference and she wants to have things move along quicker, she doesn't like dirty talk or fantasy talk or something, totally fine. But you don't have to ridicule someone for it. Now, maybe this is an expression of her frustration because Colt has pressured her a lot emotionally, and she's reacting from that place. I don't know.
I like to stimulate my brain when I'm having sex, not just my body. Have more going on than just what I see in front of me, like scenarios, like what if we were in a graveyard at night? Really spooky one, abandoned.
Okay, again, a lot of people hate Colt, so I'm guessing a lot of people will ridicule him, and they're even kind of editing this in a comical way, but we don't want to make fun of people's kinks. We do enough of that already. We do not want to ridicule people for their sexual preferences. There's nothing about his sexual preference that is harmful to other people. He likes to imagine certain things in his mind while he's having sex, and he likes to incorporate that into his sexual life. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that, nothing pathological about it. It's fine. So I just feel like I need to say that so that we don't confuse perhaps your dislike for Colt with sex negativity and ridiculing people. Because if we liked someone, or even if it was you, I mean, think about yourself. You probably have, most people in my experience have something about their sexual preference that is quote unquote shameful or ridiculable in society. And, he has his as well. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with his sexuality in this moment. He has his preferences. How do you assert that, though? Do you impose it on someone? Do you punish someone for not doing what you want to do? I don't know. Let's watch.
Just a random question, but if sex is what makes you feel so close to somebody, why is it that Jess, who gave you sex all the time, you still cheated on her with? Explain that one to me.
Well, sex is not enough, obviously.
But you're just going on about how that's what makes me feel really close and intimate.
Okay, so I don't understand I don't know much about Vanessa because we haven't seen much of her behind this or like a lot of one-on-one interviews. But he's saying now again, I'm assuming that Vanessa is coming from a place of hurt because he has punished her emotionally. She even kind of alluded to that. But he just said, well, sex isn't just about sex. It's also about emotional attachment. And I'm guessing for Vanessa, she is feeling like attacked in that moment because he's kind of accusing her of not being a good partner or something. Maybe that's why she's reacting. And then she launches into ridicule, mocking his voice. And she's saying, and then she brings in Jess, this past relationship. So if she has that as a insecurity or something she wants to talk about, then absolutely, she could just be like, honey, I want to, let's wrap up this sexual conversation. I have this insecurity about you because of the way you treated Jess, and let's talk about that because I'm insecure about our relationship. That would be totally fine. But this introduction of this idea into this conversation is a little confusing to me.
It's part of it. I don't know why.
Dude, that's what I don't understand.
I feel distant from you if we're not intimate for a while. I don't know why.
Okay, I've actually heard that a lot. I actually believe Colt in this moment, that he is saying, when we don't have sex, I feel distant from you. That's actually really common. One, because sex can provide a lot of intimacy. It's a very special kind of intimacy that is hard to achieve. It can absolutely be achieved in other forms of intimacy, of talking, eye contact, cuddling, listening to each other, being open, being vulnerable, crying in front of each other, that kind of thing. So I do believe him when he says, there's something about having sex with you that really facilitates me being close to you, and that's what I want. I want to feel close to you. Now, it's possible that for him, he knows no other way to be intimate because he's been oppressed or not modeled it, or he's afraid of being vulnerable in these other ways. And so, like I've been saying, he funnels all of his attachment needs into sex. And he's like, the only time I ever feel close to you is when I have sex because I know no other way of expressing myself to you. I know of no other way of connecting to you. And that's where therapy can help them with, is to help to build that repertoire. Let's see what Vanessa says.
You always have to find something wrong.
Yeah.
I don't want you to be unhappy, and I don't want me to be unhappy. I'm not gonna, if you're truly unhappy with your sex life and that's like a big fucking deal for you, I don't want you to be with me.
A car ride. Or did not.
Okay, so it's actually not necessarily a bad notion. I don't know if I would recommend that they would talk about it in this way, but sexual compatibility is important. It is something that you want to think about when you're dating someone, among a number of other compatibilities that people will often contemplate and think about. And that's what Vanessa's doing. She's like, are we compatible sexually? Because we do have this difference, and is he never going to be sad? And maybe that's where Vanessa is coming from. It's a good possibility. Often the low libido person, particularly if you've been cheated on in the past, because she does have a past relationship where she wonders if she was being cheated on, where he has all of this, she's looking at him, my boyfriend has all of this emotional desire, and I can barely tolerate a percentage of that. And is he going to cheat on me? Am I not going to be enough for him? She said that in the therapy session. I'm afraid I'm not going to be enough for you, that kind of thing. And that's okay. You can have that fear. How do you talk about it? How do you bond with each other? How do you look for other ways to connect? How do you understand each other? Instead of saying, well, you have to change, Colt. There's something wrong with you. There's something pathological with you. And, because she's perceiving this difference. And instead of saying, I wonder if we can, be attached even though we do have this one difference. Instead of doing that, it's, I need you to be different. I need you to be like me, and so I'm going to ridicule you to be like me. That doesn't usually work. Again, I know a lot of people don't like Colt, and I don't want to have this come across like I'm defending him, so to speak. But I'm always using this as a jumping off point for other relationships that we can apply to our own lives and to our clinical work, because I know a lot of therapists are watching too.
Go as I expected. On a relationship report card, Vanessa and I would get all A's except for sex and intimacy. Even though Vanessa and I get along very well and we care about each other, it might not be enough. I really went into this whole trip hoping that it'll bring Vanessa and I closer together. And then maybe even propose.
All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.